the right solar module and what are the key factors to know to understand. So first, those who are new to the presentation or who are new about the solarity, I'm going to discuss about what exactly we do, what are the services we provide to our customer. So let's start with our beginning basically. So we founded basically back in 2009 as a EPC installer in Czech Republic. That's where our headquarters is located. And then we had a transition to the distribution in 2011. And then by 2020, we had market all over the world, like in 9 continents and almost 50 markets. So as you can see, we have enough experience when it comes to the engineering, procurement, and construction of a solar power plant. And yeah, like I mentioned, we are currently have offices in Prague, which is our headquarters, Budapest, in Hungary, Dubai, Ukraine, Jordan, Warsaw, Morocco, Colombia, and Panama. And we have more than 100 plus employees currently working for Solarities. And yeah, we have delivered more than 2 gigawatt of projects. So as you can see, the number speaks. We have enough experience in this field. And yeah, what our main solution for our client is providing the best solution from reliable manufacturers. Not only that, we provide a value-added service for our client. For example, we provide like a technical support. So we do have like a dedicated qualified technician who works as a first level support for all the manufacturing product what we have in our portfolio, whether it could be some issue with the module, inverter, batteries, mounting structure. We have like qualified technical support team who could help in that. And also we provide training session for our clients. Let's say we could organize some webinar, not this exactly, but there's another form for training sessions as well. And then in-person trainings, all kind of information, whatever necessary for the client, we are there to help them. Also, during the training session, the representative from the manufacturer also going to be presenting some information along with our representative. So in case if the client has some questions or any sort of any issues, we could help them right away as well. So the main advantage of having the technical support internally is that we could help the customer as early as possible. We don't have to wait necessarily for the manufacturer. So giving them that individual support as early as possible. Yeah. And the other part would be the financing. We provide like factoring and credit loaning, etc. We work with biggest banks in the countries, so it should be much more easier the process for our clients. And the next important part is the logistic. This plays an important role when it comes to distribution. Obviously, not only choosing the right product, but delivering to the right places what the customer requires, it plays an important role. And we work with DHL, Shankar, Daisher, those kind of big companies. So all the location, whatever the client agreed, what kind of location, we try to ship it as early as possible. And it could be even if the client required to deliver to multiple locations, shouldn't be a problem for us to process that. We have a really qualified, like dedicated logistic team as well, working for for Solarity from various part of the country. And then the partner program, we do have like a special incentives or special program for our long-term partners. It could be gold, silver, platinum. More information you will be able to see in our website. I'm not here to explain much, but there are many advantages for having as a partner. You get the product bit more faster. You get the training bit more hurdles. There are a lot of incentives and special consideration you will get it once you are involved in the partner programs. And the next important would be the local support. So all the countries which we operate the market, we have a local technician who is employed there, the sales rep and other officers who can help you right away. So obviously it depends on the region. They can have different rules and regulation and the product can be also differ. Based on that, we have specialized individual who's going to be helping you right away with all the issues and programs or if you have any questions as well. So yeah, this is basically our geographical where we've been disposed. Our headquarter, like I mentioned, it's going to be situated in Prague, and then the branches which we have is also like the other part of the world. and these are the active markets and warehouses. So hopefully moving forward, we'll be having more active markets and branches so that we could help other clients as well from different parts of the world. So yeah, let's get to the agenda for today. So basically, I'm gonna be explaining you the key factors when it comes to considering or choosing the module, some information about solar module overview, how it can be compared, what are the main parameters, and then the brand profile. The obviously talking about the manufacturer which we have in our portfolio, and then the segment specific consideration, which means I'll be talking about the residential, CNI, and utility scale. What are the things to be considered when it comes to choosing the module for those kind of applications? And then obviously toward the end of the session, there will be a Q&A. So I'll try my best to answer all the questions which you have. But in case if we are limited by the time, you can write in the questions there, and then our representative or myself will be contacting you directly with the answers and also with the documentation if you require. So yeah, let's move in and let's start. So these are the main module partners which we have in our portfolio: JinkoSolar, Canadian, JA, LONGi, and Phono. As you probably know, these are like the biggest module manufacturers in the whole world. Yeah, so now, yeah, let's come to the bankability pyramid. So what exactly the bankability pyramid? This is like a very crucial framework in the solar industry which actually determines the reliability and financial stability of the module manufacturers. It actually, there are a lot of factors when it comes to giving them the AAA or A or whatever the category it is being placed based on their quality, their certification, their testing, or like financial stability, or all. There are a lot of things when it plays when it comes to deciding this factor. So yeah, it's really important for the stakeholder, whether it could be a residential, utility, or CNI, to choose the modules from this high categories because it gives a peace of mind that because most of the module manufacturer gives the warranty up to 12, 25, depends on the model, right? So this gives that, okay, the company can actually pull it off by giving that this much years of warranty, that they have this financial stability. So it not only ensures the project success, but also gives the ensure to the whoever the investment. Also, some of the cases, some solar power plants, it's been financed by the bank. So they know that the technology what is being used is AAA bankability or A, that gives it's easier for them to refinance as well in those kind of aspects. So as you can see, most of the module manufacturer which we have on the list is comes at the AAA, AA, and A category. So we make sure that we collaborate with this kind of reliable and reputed manufacturers. And yeah, now let's come to the topic what we're going to be discussing today. The importance of choosing the right module, because every project, every application can be differ. Depends on that, we have to choose like different parameters. For example, the kind of location where it's going to be installed, whether it's a residential, CNI, utility scale, how much area they have, the kind of environment it's going to be, what kind of structure will be installed. There are a lot of factors plays when it comes to deciding this the right module. And yeah, the key factors to be considered would be the efficiency, cost, durability, and appearance, warranty, and technology. What I mean by the efficiency is that the solar cell, the rate which it can convert the sunlight into the electricity. Most of the module, I would say, on a generic, on the top cone, it comes around 22, 23, in those kind of percentage. But obviously, this can differ highly, depends on the what kind of environment it will be installed. For example, this is like a screenshot of one of the module, like a data sheet. As you can see, the most of the time the power it's been denoted in the data sheet is like the what the maximum capable power it can produce, but doesn't mean that it's going to be producing in every condition. For example, you can see in every data sheet the STC, which is like the standard testing condition, which means the irradiance have to be 1000 watt per meter square, the air mass has to be 1.5, the temperature has to be 25 degrees Celsius, which is in the case of real life, right? It could highly differ. It could be the temperature could be higher, it could be lower. The irradiance shouldn't be 1,000. So there could be a lot of difference, and it won't be producing this 420 watt or whatever the data sheet actually says it. That's why there is another like nominal module operating temperature, which is like another criteria as well. So as you can see that in that they like basically assume the irradiance will be 800, and then the temperature is like 20 degree, and then there's a wind speed. So obviously the what it's been said before 420, now it's decreased to 370. So so this is like something we'll have to take into the consideration, because at the end of the day, the environment, what it is, if it could be a cloudy condition, if there is a wind, because according to the cloudy condition, the irradiance can be either direct, or it could be diffuse, or it could be reflected. Based on that, you get the power output basically at the end of the day. So there is a lot of factors which plays when it comes to the efficiency of the module. Yeah, the temperature, the altitude, the humidity, yeah, etc. So these are the things which really affect the efficiency. And then cost, not cheapest is always the best, right? It depends on the scenarios. It has to be chosen accordingly. And yeah, the prices are currently, as you know, the current situation, there is a large supply and the demand has not been almost balanced. So this is why there is excessive amount of modules in the market. So you could get like good, like really good modules on a cheaper rate at the moment because of the market issues. But yeah, it's not always cheapest is the best. So you have to consider the environmental or geographical locations where it's going to be installed, and based on that, you will get more efficient producing module basically. And then the durability. So most of the module manufacturer determines, just call it this parameter in their data sheet, that it can withstand hailstorm, like harsh weather condition up to 500 Pascal, or on the rear side it will be like 2000 Pascal. Those kind of information is also necessary. Let's say if it's going to be installed in a really extreme condition, it's good to understand about that as well. And I think Longi, Jingo, JA, Canadian, all those mainstream modules provide this kind of durability as well. And then the appearance. I would say this only matters in the residential. Apart from that, for the CNI or utility scale, it doesn't really matter the appearance size, because it's going to be in a large scale. You could see on a residential application, there's like a black frame or full black and those kind of variants, or transparent modules and all that, because most of the time the residential installation comes from 1 to 10 kilowatt. Yeah, so it's like a really small scale. So obviously the capex will be much more lesser. Whereas CNI and utility scale with a big installation could be multiple megawatt projects. So it doesn't really make sense to go with a bit more expensive all black or black frame. And then the next would be the warranty. So most of the module manufacturer currently for the new models, I think they give around 50 years uh, product warranty, and then 25 years of performance warranty. Some of them it could give either 30 years as well. So this is also important to know what kind of warranty they produce. So it shouldn't be a much of an issue with the module manufacturer. We collaborate because, like I said, they are all A category bankability manufacturers. So they provide this kind of standard, but some of the other manufacturers, they don't provide this. So there could be an issue as well. So because the thing is that modules can have a lot of damage, especially micro cracks. For example, N types are like really thinner compared to the P type, which means it's like 120 to 130 micrometer, whereas P type is more robust, it's like 150 micrometer. So there could be some issues with the micro crack and all that. But you know, there's some companies like Jinko, JA, they have another let's say method to avoid it, like having multiple plus bar and all that. So it's good to understand what kind of warranty they produce. But yeah, and then the technology again. So currently, like up to last year, the main dominant technology what is being used on a wafer was PERC, and then now we can almost see that there is no existence of PERC at the moment. It's mainly TOPCon and back contact shell from Longi and heterojunctional as well, but I wouldn't say it's a mainstream one because the production cost is still high compared to the TOPCon. So that's why it's not really, when you calculate the LCOE, it doesn't really make sense to go to a heterojunction at the moment. But yeah, it's a bit more efficient, obviously. But yeah, so previously all the manufacturer, it was mainly used P-type, and obviously it had some advantages and disadvantages, I would say. Especially the disadvantages, like they have, it's because basically the silicon is like doped with boron, so this boron oxygen combination, it can produce like high light induced degradation. So the degradation rate was much more higher during the first year and the annual degradation compared to the N-type. And obviously the performance warranty also was lesser compared to the N-type. So when you count all those part, yeah, for sure, it's high time that we should go for the N-type and Topcon, because when you compare all those details and intricacies, it makes really sense. But also it's important that who manufactures the N-type and Topcon technology, because it's really like thinness, and there has to be so much things has to come into the place to make the good quality solar wafers. So it's really important to buy it from the reputed companies, manufacturers especially. And obviously, when you compare the bifaciality, also it's higher for Topcon, and efficiency is also a bit more higher. So yeah, so I think going forward from this year itself, every manufacturer has canceled their production for the PERC. It's just going to be Topcon. And I think apart from Longi, they still have a bit different. I think they are pretty unique when it comes to their technology. They have like a combination of PERC and Topcon in their, still uses P-type actually. So it's a HPBC technology, which means a hybrid preservative back contact cells, which I'll be explaining you later on how exactly their technology differs and all that. So yeah, this is just a comparison, just that you guys could know how exactly going forward in the market. And obviously, in the next few years, there will be tandem cell, which will be a bit more efficient. So every other year, there is some kind of advancement happening in the solar module. So it's looking bright actually when it comes to the technological advancement. So at the moment, Topcon is the main player, like the main technology, what's the module manufacturer has been following. Yeah. And I'm going to be talking about the brand profile, like some of the module manufacturer which we have in the portfolio, mainstream ones. First, yeah, like I mentioned before, I'll be starting with Launchie. So they have a bit different, like they don't use Topcon or PERC. It's basically like a combination of both. So that means they have advantages of both the technology. So it's basically called like hybrid preservative back contact cell. So instead of having the bus bars and all the welding material, they will be, instead of having it in the front, they will have all of them in the back side of the module, which means especially during the mornings and the afternoon when the sun is on the lower angle of the sunlight, there won't be less shadow between the metals bus bars. So there is like more room for absorbing the sunlight so that it can convert the electricity. So they use this Tire HVBC technology. It's really unique. I think going forward next year, even other manufacturers going to be having back contact cells, because it actually boosts a lot of efficiency when it comes to the module itself. But obviously, there are pluses and minuses for every technology. Now that the more bus bar is going to be located on the backside of the module, that means there'll be less area to collect sunlight from the backside, which means the bifaciality factor will be much lesser compared to the other modules. But in the fact, like for example, for residential or let's say for those kind of projects, if it's going to be rooftop, then it doesn't really make sense to go for bifacial, because it will be a bit more heavy and there won't be area for them to absorb it from the backside. So yeah, there are pluses and minuses for every kind of technology. So yeah, this is like the product family which has been announced last year or towards the first starting of this year. They have like X6 Explorer, which is more like a base model, and then the Scientist, which has an additional hydrogen layer, which is even more efficient. Efficiency is like up to 23.5 or 23.8, depends on the model again. But I would say this is like one of the most efficient module at the moment. And then the Guardian, they have it a bit different. They could also utilize for when high dust area, and then dam heat degradation is lesser. So there are some additional features for the Guardian, and then Artist, I would say it's mainly for the full black, those kind of modules at the moment. So it's mainly for the residential artist ones. And yeah, so this year onwards, towards the next quarter, they're going to be replacing all the module by X6 Max, which means all the size of the cell will be in rectangular rather than in square, which means it wouldn't be M10, it will be like 181 into 190, something like that. So you have more energy density with the small area, especially in the let's say in the residential, we are really limited. Most of the cases, the limitation is always there when it comes to rooftop, right? So you need to have some kind of a module which have more energy could produce in a shorter space. So this can actually solve that issue. I think all the manufacturers is going to be going ahead will have this rectangular uh, sized solar cells. I mean, this is the way to go, I guess, because you are actually utilizing more space, and you could produce much more energy than what it was used to be. And the length, actually, the width is there is no any changes. It will be 1.134. This is like the standard for every module. But the length in now for the residential, what it was like 1.72 or something like that. Now it's going to be 1.8. So there will be like a small difference in the length. There will be a bit more increase, but then the power output it could produce is much more higher. And yeah, this is basically it explains how it's been changed. Like I mentioned before, what it was like 182 to 181. Now it's like going to be 182 to into 192. So what like for 72 cell it was 2.278. Now it's going to be 2.38. So yeah, this will be the small difference, but then you could produce much more energy on the same place. Yeah. Now moving ahead to the next brand which we have, it's like one of the best as well, Jingo. I think last year and a couple of years they had the most shipment when it comes to solar module. They are pretty big, and so they use TOPCon technology. So additional to that, they have like another heterojunctional tunnel technology. So that means like there is an additional layer which actually is gonna make it bit more efficient enough. And also they use that metallization enhancement, which means for the most of the module manufacturer for the encapsulant, they use the EVA compound, and this EVA compound actually have this acidity and all that, and N-types are more prone to damp heat degradation. So that's why most of the module manufacturer for the N-type popcorn they only produce bifacial. Because, like I said, they compared to P-type, N-type have this kind of issues, damp heat, and when it comes to this losses. So that's why having a back class would like reduce that kind of losses. But whereas this one, they have this additional this, they will reduce this with the metallization enhancement. They'll reduce the aluminum ozone material in the silver pest, so it reduces the prone to have the damp heat degradation. And also good thing about Jingo, Longi and all that is that they have high voltage, open circuit voltage, which means they will perform really good even in the low light radiations and everything. So you can, especially when it's going to be cloudy or if it's in the early morning or something like that, it could actually produce good energy output basically. So this is how their technology has been advancing. They've been patterned for most of the advancement in, let's say, in the solar industry, lithium, and also yeah, Longi, because they invest a lot of money in their R&D. So that's why they are like the uh, path breaker, I would say, Jingo and Longi. So currently they have been in the cell efficiency of 26.89, and the next few years it will be, it's already been, I think, proved in the laboratory and everything, the N-type tandem. So going forward, that will be the direction they will be heading. And yeah, so these are the product portfolio, currently what they offer. Obviously, could be from 54 to 60 and then 70 to 78. So it depends on the application. You could easily use like Jingo, Longia as well. It's pretty straightforward. And they also have the residential. They have this micro rectangular shape module cells, which means it wouldn't be like a highly like let's say square, but it's not like exactly rectangular as well on the same radius. But they also, I think, from the last year, they already have this kind of product in the market. But slowly, the other manufacturers also having it the same way. So yeah, which actually makes sense in order to go to that direction. Yeah, and this is the module. Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, this some the size of the cells is like 182 into 183, which is like micro rectangular, and the other one, which there is another models as well, which is like combination of M10 and G12. So yeah, depends on the application. You could actually choose. There is a wide range of variety into the module. And next, obviously, would be about JA. They're also pretty big up there, close to Dingo and Longi. And they, obviously, they used to have a lot of perk modules, still have it, I think, but I think they're going to be discontinuing anytime soon, I think. And the cells they use is called the BISUM cells, basically. It's also used the TOPCon technology. And yeah, and the interconnection between the cells, instead of chilling and ribbon and all that, they have this close density, which means the cells are like really closer. And yeah, and they, I think, only produce double class for N-type module, like I mentioned, because N-type is more prone to damp heat degradation. So that's why going forward for the N-type, they're just gonna be, I think, it will be just bifacial modules at the moment. So I also would like to explain about the temperature coefficient as well. Most of the temperature coefficient comes around minus 0.29, 0.28, something like that in that range for most of the module manufacturers. What it means by the temperature coefficient is that, like I mentioned on the first slide, is that the most optimal temperature where the module can produce the best output is 25 degrees. So whatever the temperature when it's going to be above that or below, it's actually there will be some kind of losses or inefficiency in the module production. So that's why the temperature coefficient plays a major role. That's how we know that how it's going to be affecting based on the temperatures. That's a really good benchmark to understand about that as well. And yeah, the JA Solar has a high bifaciality factor. I think it's gonna be 80% plus, almost 10. So almost 90% in some of their modules, which is gonna be really useful for some application. For example, utility scale. When it's like a tracker or something, when you have enough area length from the ground to the the module, so it'll have enough space to reflect back. I mean, bifaciality is a bit tricky. You don't get that kind of production every season, right? Depends on the surface of the land as well. If it's snow, then obviously the reflection will be higher. Where if it's a grass or let's say sand, then the reflection wouldn't be that much. So the bifaciality factor is not going to play much a bigger role. So it really depends on the location where it's installed. And like I mentioned, all those things has to be taken into consideration to get the optimal LCOE for that project, right? So for the N type, the degradation rate is much more lesser as well when it comes to the P type. I think 0.5 or 4 depends on the model, obviously. So like the rest of the module manufacturer, they also have rectangle size cells. So yeah, like I said, this is like everybody's following or going to that direction, but actually makes sense because you have the same width, but a little bit 1 point or 0.1 or 0.2 meters higher, then you get more, let's say, size of energy production. So at the end of the day, the number of modules could be reduced because of this. That's main benefit actually. So next, the important manufacturer which we have in the portfolio is Canadian Solar. They are also one of the biggest, and they also use TOPCon. As you can see, for the TOPCon, they use this glass technology, and they also use this rectangular cells. and they are also pretty efficient. The efficiency is like up to 25, 28, 22.8, 22.5, those kind of range. I would say most of the module comes into that category, and they give like almost 25 to 25 years if it's gonna be installed on a rooftop. So based on that, the warranty period could change. And yeah, they also have a similar performance warranty, which is like first year there will be a reduction of degradation of 1%, and then going forward every year there will be like 0.4%, which is like almost the standard for the top one. And the next is the Phonosolar. I would say this is not that big compared to the manufacturer which I just mentioned. We only provide this to this customer as a project base. Basically, we don't have anything on the stock. We only have it on the stock when the customer inquired about it. One of the reason is that they don't have the production capacity. Let's say they are below like 10 gigawatt their production capacity per year, whereas when you take into consideration for the Canadian Long Beach Jinko JA, they have almost like 80, 90 gigawatt per year. So they could produce more modules basically. And whereas Phono is there are a lot of other advantages there. They are bit more cheaper compared to the other manufacturers, and the technology is also good. They use TOPCon, and they also have heterojunctional, which is like a special category as well. And they use this multi-bus bar in order to avoid any micro cracks. And they also have this anti-reflection, which is also the other module manufacturers. And these are some of the module which they have for different categories. Like I mentioned, they still have a PERC module, head projection, top cone. So some of the cases, if the customer requires those kind of technology used for their project, it's you get it, and their heterojunctional modules also is not that expensive compared to the other brands. So they are like more reliable and cost-effective solution, but I wouldn't say it's like on the top up there. It's just the basically on the project-based product basically. Now I'm gonna be talking about the segment-specific consideration. What are the main concerns when it comes to choosing for the different application? The first would be the residential solar application. So this is actually one of the like for the past few years, there's a high demand for the residential solar system because government give them some kind of incentives, like they can reduce the electricity bill. So it's more attractive in that sense. But the thing is that when it comes to residential, there are a lot of limitations, right? You're going to be installing most of the time in the roof, and we have to make sure that roof have the capability to withstand the weight. So that analysis has to be done. So it's always good to go with the lightest, and we have to make sure if it's compatible with the structure what we're going to be using it for. It has to be, decide carefully, and there are a lot of limitations. So it's highly important to choose the right modules for that. So the typical power, I would say 350. I wouldn't say currently it's been used, but previously. Now most of them, I would say, comes above 400 up to 470 and all that, because now it's like a rectangular shape cell, so we could have more watt per modules, right? And the technology, previously it was PERC, and now, like I mentioned, it's all TOPCon and HPPC for the LONGi modules. So yeah, so that's why that's in the residential sector. It actually some of the time the aesthetic or the appearance actually matters for the client, because you're not gonna have a bigger installation and this is gonna be on your roof. So some of the time, full black or black frame is what the customer prefers. Obviously, it will be a bit more expensive, and for this kind of product, they give higher warranty as well. Most of the time, the full black, most of the brands I'm saying, if not everyone, they give like 25 years product warranty, because black is more prone for heat. It's absorb heat, so it can have some kind of issue with the module efficiency. That's why the manufacturer gives much more higher warranty for this kind of product actually. And now I just compared basically some of the module manufacturers, like when it comes to the residential sector, what are the key consideration it has to be taken. For example, the length, it's all of them are below or almost the same as 1.8, the maximum. and then the weight is like almost 25 to 24. Like 24 is like the double class bifacial modules. It's like 21 to 22 would be the average weight I've seen it, because like I mentioned, for the residential the weight is also important, and then the temperature coefficient, what is the degradation rate, those are the things what should be considered when it comes to choosing the right modules for the residential sector. And yeah, so I would say scientist version of Longi is probably one of the best choices, I would say, but it's a bit more expensive. So you have to take all of that into the consideration. How what is the sizes, and what would be the durability? Like the, for example, Jingo has like when it comes to durability, it can almost have 6,000 Pascal on the front side. On the rear side, it's almost like 4,000. Compared to the other module, they have a bit more higher numbers. But yeah, so once they have like enough warranty, we shouldn't be an issue as well. But it's good to go through some of these parameters to understand what would be the best for each scenarios, basically. And next, obviously, the CNI. So this it's like in between. It's most of the module which is going to be used. It will be 60 or 66 cell, depends on the brand. So it sizes from 450 to 600. So yeah, also for the residential, I forgot to mention one thing. It's also important to understand what is the maximum power MPPT current it can hold, because if it's like going to be a 1 kilowatt or 5 kilowatt, it has to match with the inverter current and the module current, if it's on matching. So most of the module it comes below 15, some of them are above, so you have to make sure that it's compatible with the inverter. I suppose the designers will be taking care of it, so you have to make sure that this is compatible with certain inverter. I think nowadays almost most of the inverters are like increasing their MPPT current up to 15, but in some of the brands it's still below, and in some module models is going to be above 15. So you have to make sure on that, see if it is compatible with each inverter at the end of the day. Yeah, the CNI again, we can use a bifacial in this, unlike the residential, because most of the time it can be either rooftop or even ground mode as well in a small scale in front of commercial or industrial places. Most of the time they use, because they get some kind of incentive, and most of the operational cost for a CNI is their electricity, right? So by installing a PV, you can actually reduce your electricity, and also you get some kind of incentive from the government. So it's a win-win situation in every angle for them. So in order to do that, you have to utilize the space more effectively, which means depends on the area. You have to choose what kind of structure it has to be used, whether if it's a fixed structure or a tracker, or a east to west, depends on that the location what they have, we have to produce that. And then, and the module, it's not like the bigger the module the better for this kind of solution. You have to analyze the space what we have. Sometimes it's better to go with the 60 cells, or sometimes even good to go with the 72 cells. So you need to make sure that you choose the right one for that kind of application. So yeah, this could be starting from like 50 kilowatt to several megawatt, depends on the size what they have. And it's also important to understand like what kind of environment it will be installed as well. And then the next would be the utility scale project, which could be differing from uh, like a couple of kilowatt to like hundreds of megawatt, right? I mean, most of the time, I would say above 1 megawatt, it could be the tracker system could be as well, would be really suitable. Which means in that cases you could actually install higher modules, which is like from 72 to 78 cells module, which has like high bifaciality factor. So yeah, and this is like some of the consideration you have to take when it comes to choosing it. Depends on the environment, whether if it's really required to have the bifaciality, and the land what we have. Based on that, it's better to choose which one to go for, because most of the time the modules from let's say Jingo and JA, and Longi, they are almost on the same level, I would say. It's hard to say which one is like better because in some scenarios or application, some of them can have a difference, but on the real life and the real situation, I would say it's almost on the same par, this four brands. So yeah, but still it's good to consider those kind of facts, but to go with one solution basically. And yeah, the last but not least, I would like to also mention some of the modules which we have currently on the stocks. Yeah, so obviously this could be available right away. So once you make an order, we could ship it wherever the desired location you would like, and you could contact some of our sales rep for this. Also, in some of the products, like if you require, you could let us know what exactly the product you want, and then we'll be able to help you with the product as early as possible. And also, not only the module, we also have a large module, like an inverter manufacturer as well in our portfolio. So we make sure, like in let's say we do project based also for the customer, which means they will buy the modules, inverter, the mounting structure, whatever they require as a one-stop solution from the Solarity. We have that technical expertise, so we will be able to choose them what kind of inverter or module they would need to use for certain application. We can also guide them. We have like say like a PhD colleague who's like having a doctorate in solar energy as well, and who's working like almost 10, 15 colleagues who's going to be working just for that part. So in terms of any technical details or any those kind of questions, we are here to help you with that. Like I mentioned, we are not just a typical distributor who just distribute what you just order. We provide this value added service that make sure that you are getting the right solution. On top of that, in case if you guys have any issue with the technical issues, they're gonna be helping you right away with the whether it could be let's say for commissioning, if you have a like remote troubleshooting, etc. So we have a certified technical support team. So they'll be able to help you right away. And also going forward, we're going to be having training centers and yeah, service center in Prague as well for most of the manufacturers. So it will be a bit more faster than what it used to be. And yeah, like I mentioned, these are the pieces on the stock which is available, but obviously there will be more as well. So you can make the order from the module manufacturer, which I mentioned. It shouldn't be taking much longer. We have like really good relation with all the manufacturer. We are like one of the pioneers when it comes to the distribution companies. So yeah, like I mentioned, you can contact in this number in this details. So also you probably have some contact details of our sales rep. You can also let them know what exactly you're looking for, and they will be able to help you with all the required information as early as possible. So yeah, let's start with the Q&A session. I suppose you probably have a lot of questions to ask, so I wanted to devote more time for that and explain you whatever questions you have. In my capabilities, obviously, if there is something, then I can contact you later on with my help of my technical support team to answer that. But before moving ahead to that, I will maybe I can show you like let's say like a poll. I just wanted to understand what exactly uh, would be your answers for that polls. It seems that you guys, the first question, which what is the most important factor for when selecting a solar module? Almost 89% of them was choosing the efficiency and performance, which I would also reckon, because that at the end of the day, that plays the major role because this is the installation which is going to be there for next 25 to 30 years. It really differ. So we have to make sure that it performs in every condition, that has a high efficiency and durability. So yeah, I reckon it's not always the cheapest, the best solution, especially when you're going to be investing for a large scale modules, like systems basically. And yeah, the next second question was, are you currently considering any solar energy for? I think it's almost like residential and CNI users. Yeah, like there are a lot of incentives given by the government for various markets, so it's become more attractive. for that kind of application. So we do have, like I mentioned, we do have like really optimal modules for that kind of application. So please feel free to contact us for any kind of ordering, or in terms of any questions which you want to choose, you can also let us know. So yeah, in the brand, what do you guys prefer? It's mainly Longi and Canadian, and also Jingo and JA. Yeah, it's all like I said, it's all on the same level, almost Longi and Jingo especially, and then JA and Canadian. JA has actually upgraded to the AAA bankability as well. So all of them are really reliable product at the end of the day. So yeah, like I mentioned. Except sometimes you'll have to choose a bit differently based on the application, what is going to be used. So there are a lot of things to be considered in that part. And let's start our Q&A session. I think some of them already asked. Uh, yeah, so do let me know if you have any questions. Am I audible enough? I wasn't sure if you could hear me properly. Can I know if you could hear me properly now? Yeah, Vladimir Craft. Maybe you could, yeah, could let me know what kind of questions you have. Vladimir, maybe you could type in your questions there in the bar, and then maybe I could read out and answer you in my best capacity. Or also, if you don't have any at the moment, we're gonna be, we recorded this session, so you can go through it again. And if you have any questions later on, you can also contact us, and then we'll be able to help you even with the documentation about the questions as well. So it shouldn't be a problem, but please feel free to ask me now as well. We still have more time to go with it, so I would suggest in case if you have any now, we could let me know. I think Vladimir raised some questions, so maybe you could type it down on the bar over here. Well, it seems like we are not receiving any questions at the moment. Yeah, like I mentioned, if you don't have it at the moment, please feel free to contact us again. We will be sending you the recorded version right away, or after a few time, and then let us know, and we'll be here to help you with that. So in that case, I'll be ending this session. Thank you everyone for attending this, and yeah, I'll look forward to your questions later on. Yeah, all right. So yeah, thank you so much, and have a nice day, and thank you. Bye.